questions I'm often asked by directors is, when should I resign from a board? And I guess that's one of the ultimate rights of a director, is to resign, but you shouldn't do that, I guess, without thinking about it pretty carefully. And certainly we don't want directors resigning just because things get a bit tricky in the boardroom. If that happened, boards would collapse across the country, and of course that'd have economic and social impacts. So what are some of the considerations? And I guess I'd put these into two buckets. The first bucket is a more pragmatic sort of lens, and that's things like if you don't have enough time to do not only the usual board functions around attending meetings, but also the deeper level of thinking that really is expected of directors on boards these days. Similarly, if you've got a conflict of interest that's arisen and it's incompatible with your role, and you're spending more time out of the boardroom than in the boardroom due to that conflict, it's probably time you thought about your position, and indeed your fellow directors are probably thinking about that also. The second bucket of issues are a little bit harder, and that might be that fundamentally you don't agree with the strategic direction of the company. And of course we want diversity of views, and we want directors to challenge and bring different perspectives to key strategic issues. But if the board and management have agreed on a path and you just don't agree with that path, it might be time for you to consider your role. Similarly, if you feel that you're no longer adding value, that you've contributed on issues on various occasions, you don't seem to be getting traction, might be becoming frustrating for you, might be frustrating for your fellow board members as well, and that might be another point at which you come at a crossroads of thinking about your time on the board. And finally, if there's governance issues, if there's ethical issues, that is always going to be a point at which directors will contemplate what position they should take. And indeed, these can be some of the hardest issues for directors to work through. It has been the reason that I have resigned from a board, where I felt that there were underlying issues that I'd advocated for change on and they hadn't been changed. There's a couple of things to think about if you are contemplating resignation. It's always good to talk to the chair early, obviously. The chair might actually be able to help resolve the issues, but if they can't, you obviously want to help the chair also plan for board succession. Also, from a personal perspective, think about your D&O insurance, make sure you've got good runoff cover. D&O works on a claims made basis, and so if claims made after you leave the board, you want to make sure you've got coverage. And also, what are the terms of your deed of access and indemnity? So hopefully there's some food for thought there on should you ever come to that very difficult point where you have to think about whether you should resign from a board.